Hi, everyone. We're back. My name is Maren Schroeder. I'm the Coalition Director for the MN is Ready Coalition. We are a coalition of advocacy organizations and industry members working to legalize the adult use of cannabis. Want to give a big shout out to the thank you to the Minnesota Hemp Growers Cooperative for letting us use their stage today. And now I have Representatives Liz Reyer and Dave Pinto. And we're going to talk about full legalization, so hang around. You're going to go ahead and introduce yourselves quick, and then we'll jump into Q&A.
Hey everyone, I'm Liz Reyer, State Representative from Eagan, House District 51B. Really happy to be here in support of legalization of cannabis. Looking forward to our discussion, and thanks to the Minnesota Hemp Growers Cooperative for hosting us.
Hey, so Representative Dave Pinto from the southwest part of St. Paul, Highland Park, Fort Road, West 7th, and part of Mac Groveland. And so glad to be here too. Many thanks to the Hemp Growers Cooperative for hosting us, and delighted to have this conversation. Thanks.
Awesome. So the first question is maybe the easiest one. Why do you think Minnesota is ready for full legalization?
Well, there are so many reasons Minnesota is ready. First of all, there is expectation and a demand in the community among Minnesotans for legalization. Failing to allow people adult use of a substance is unreasonable, and I'm fully supportive of it. And the important reason to me personally is around equity and racial justice. We have had communities who were so harmed by the war on drugs, with people being incarcerated, mass incarceration, directly tied to the criminalization of cannabis. And so our bill, which moves us back into a healthy relationship with it, a healthy relationship with the law, economic opportunity, is what we need in Minnesota.
Minnesota is ready for legalization because criminalization has not worked, and in fact has caused more harms than marijuana and cannabis ever have. It hasn't kept cannabis out of the hands of young people. It's had a lot of harms when people are using cannabis at the same rates in different populations, and yet, as Liz Reyer said, Minnesotans of color are disproportionately targeted under criminalization. What we need to do is to legalize and regulate so we can have this be a market that people can take advantage of, and we can make sure to be limiting the harms and allowing people the opportunity to use a substance if they're an adult that they want to use. Thanks.
What is the most important thing that you think we should consider when developing the policy to legalize cannabis?
Well, so you can probably tell from my answer, I'm definitely keeping an eye on the fact that that cannabis use does have some concerns we want to keep an eye on in terms of young people, et cetera. The most important consideration when we legalize, and we will, is that we have a public health model in mind, that we make sure to take advantage of the opportunities we have through regulation to limit the harms and to allow people to use this substance. And so in the bill that we have passed through the Minnesota House and that Liz Reyer and I are supportive of, we had a series of hearings around the state to put together the bill and to take a public health model, and I'm really proud that that's the approach that we're taking. It is absolutely critical that we do that.
I'd like to build on the benefit that Dave Pinto mentioned in public health and go beyond that. I completely agree with that aspect, and I couldn't have said it better. So I want to talk about the economic opportunity. We have parts of our community where people have been systematically deprived of the ability to make money, to have businesses, to be entrepreneurs. And to me, the most important thing, another important thing, is that we have a model that brings economic opportunity to small businesses, especially black and brown communities, and that does not enable consolidation into the hands of large white-led organizations, as has been in the case in so many industries. that we are taking the tax revenues from it and investing it in communities of color so that the benefits go to the people who have been harmed in the past.
Is it on me now? Yeah, it is. Okay, sorry. That was a really great answer.
Right on.
Great job, you guys. So, some very red states are ahead of us on cannabis policy, whether it's medical or recreational. So why can't Minnesota get it done, and what are the hurdles here to legalizing cannabis?
In Minnesota, the biggest hurdle to legalizing cannabis can be summed up by saying the GOP-controlled Senate. We were able to pass a robust, well-thought-out bill in the House. That is a bill that would move Minnesota forward in all of the ways that we've talked about, economically, from a criminal justice perspective, from a public health perspective. The Senate simply refuses to hear it, and we cannot get the bill through if we continue in that deadlock.
Yeah, I mean, it really is as simple as this. We have a DFL governor who's supportive of legalization. We have a DFL House that has passed a bill for legalization, and we have a Republican Senate that is blocking the way and has been consistently and has made it very clear that they're going to keep on doing that as long as they remain in power. So that is the thing that's getting in the way of legalization.
Is there any way for supporters to put it on the ballot?
Well, the best thing that supporters can do is to identify the candidates in their area who are supportive of legalization. In general, that's going to be the Democratic candidate. That's just how it is. And to get out there and provide support. That's the most straightforward way. We have a bill that we've worked on that has passed the Democratic-controlled House and is ready to go. And so what we need to do is to make sure that we keep on pushing to elect senators and representatives who are supportive of that. That's going to be the most straightforward way to get this done.
And to accomplish this, to hold the House so that we have the support for legalization of cannabis, and to flip the Senate, you might live in a district like mine where your representative already supports it, or a district like Dave Pinto's where the representative already supports it. Go to your neighbor districts, help other districts, help campaigns that we either need to hold because they are threatened by a tougher margin, or ones where we have a chance to win control of the seat and therefore bring ourselves into the control of the Senate. Get out and help any candidate that you can who can help advance this in addition to your own seats.
Before I throw out my last couple questions, I just want to add on that if you are a voter, you can go see my friend Joan down there. She's got a QR code for you. You can pledge to vote today. We'll give you a free button. And then we'll help you get information on the candidates running in your district and where they stand on this issue. So kind of a personal question, why do you support full legalization?
Well, I support it at a personal level because over the years of my life, I have seen so little harm and so much benefit, and just such when something just doesn't make sense to me, is like, why do we have rules against this? This does not make sense. There's not a community interest in it. I just hate bad law. I just hate bad policy that limits people's rights to control their own lives and their own choices. I have, known so many people who, it's a recreational choice, and I think that's good. And so to me, to be able to do that and then to address the equity issues make complete sense. It's hard to say, why do I support it at a personal level? Because why wouldn't I? Where is the argument against it? And there isn't one.
So for me, I have to say that the comparison with other intoxicating substances that people choose to use that may have some negatives and some benefits as well, that's a real driver for me. We just can't argue that cannabis is somehow has greater concerns than tobacco use, than alcohol use. The difference is really rooted in racism and in the history of our country. And that is just not anything that I can justify. And in fact, continuing to criminalize the one. Remember that we tried to criminalize alcohol. It didn't work out so well. Some portions of our society, and particularly Minnesotans of color, are those particularly feeling the pain of the way that we structure things right now. And that is just not fair. So the hypocrisy of having this be a substance that's criminalized, that really bothers me. And it's not an approach that we should be taking.
So I'm going to combine my last two questions because I think they're pretty interrelated. What are you hearing from voters in your district about full legalization, and how can those voters help get cannabis legalization across the finish line?
So I'm definitely hearing support for legalization for the most part. There's certainly some folks who have concerns, but generally speaking, that when I talk them through those concerns, kind of along the lines of discussed earlier, they recognize the need and are supportive. As far as how they can help, I think that we've talked about this before. It is critical that you identify the candidates in your area, make sure you're supporting them if they are pro-legalization, that you're opposing them if they're not, and that you are asking, how can I be helpful in my own community or perhaps in some other community to make a difference here? There is so much to be done. Reach out to your local candidates and say, what can I do to help? And trust me, they will find some way to put you to work to help advance the ball on this. Thanks.
Yeah, in terms of what I'm hearing from my community, I'm in my first term in the House, and so I ran for office for the first time 2 years ago, and I still remember one of the first phone calls I made to someone who I didn't know at all, who said, "What's your position on cannabis legalization?" And I told them, I completely support it. To me, it's an obvious policy direction we should go. And they said good, because for them it was a religious issue. Other people have come up and talked to me about the justice issues. Other people have talked about the preference for the recreational use and the medical uses. I hear some concerns from people about youth, and I take that seriously, that we need to make sure our policies address that, and they do, as laid out in our legislation. So I'm pleased about that. So overall, I hear much more support in my Egan district, in my new Egan and Burnsville district, than concerns. I think people can help by working with legislators, working with campaigns, but also talking to people in the community, talking to their friends, talking to their relatives, using the word of mouth, using the personalizing of the perspective to win people over, because we see so much change coming from people that people know. So let's all use our voices in that way, because that's how we have an impact.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for coming out today. Again, thank you to the Minnesota Hemp Growers Cooperative for having us. If you're here and you want to get a Min is Ready Coalition button, we have some flyers over on the tables. Scan the QR code, pledge to vote, show one of our volunteers your phone to show that you did it, and you'll get a button. And we'll be back at about 2 o'clock with Jeremy Peichel.